How's it going, guys? Good evening. My name is Ben with my buddy Hugh. We are the ESA talking Super Bowl Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. Super excited. Should be one for the ages. Hugh, how you feeling, man?
Feel good about this, man. This is going to be good.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good game. I really like it from all different, aspects. I like the best side, the DFS side. But I like, most of anything that's, this game's all about. You got the Kelsey brothers. You got all these different high topics that we can discuss. I think some people may want to see the Bengals and the Eagles and stuff like that. But you know what? I don't. This is a good game. You got Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league. And, that takes a lot for me to say that. But
It's true.
you also got Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is also, I think, probably the best quarterback in the NFC. So
Hard to argue that this year.
we're right there at it. I mean, he's quiet, but he's good.
You said some people might have wanted to see Cincinnati in this game. I'm sure Cincinnati fans wanted to see that.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure a lot of football fans, as Chiefs have become sort of one to root against in the last 5 years.
Yes.
So, and Burrow is hard to root against. So I'm sure a lot of people wanted to see, a lot of fans wanted to see that matchup. But the two best teams are in this game of the year.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I mean, same record, same amount of points scored. Everything pretty much is on paper the same way, except the defense of the Eagles, which is by far better than any defense. I mean, yeah, the only other defense would be the 49ers, but in this game, it's very clear.
Substantially different.
Yes.
These two defenses, offenses are 1 and 2. Defenses are middle of the pack against elites. So
Yes.
that will be the difference, in my opinion. I think we both agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's both 16-3 up until this point, both the number one seeds in their respective conferences.
Yep.
Both 546 points scored as a team.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So the two best teams are facing off.
Yes.
I would say. Another side note: first matchup of two black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl.
Really?
Yeah, Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. So that's another little side note. Also, a piece of history. Hopefully, it continues forward. With that trend, moving into the future.
It's interesting.
Obviously, we mentioned the Kelsey brothers are going at it. Had the Harbaugh brothers go at it about a decade ago, and the coaching battle. Now you have the actual player battle.
Yep.
That'll be a fun one. Another little note: first time Patrick Mahomes is an underdog in the playoffs, as the line sits right now.
And it started out as, I think, -1 for the Chiefs, but then it flipped the whole script back. Now it's -1.5 for the Eagles.
That's right. A lot of money coming in on the Eagles.
We'll have some more talk on that because I do not believe in that line.
Okay. Yeah, I can't wait to get to that portion. But first, let's just get into strictly football.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about any money just yet. Let's talk about some football. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses you think that you see for the Chiefs? Andy Reid obviously has the advantage of coaching over Sirianni. Yep. Andy Reid's done it for a quarter of a century. Sirianni's in the second year. Reid has been to, this will be his fourth Super Bowl. Won one, lost two. This will be his fourth that he's coached in. This will be Sirianni's first, obviously. So the advantage goes to Reid there. But as far as the Chiefs as a whole, what do you see as maybe their biggest strengths? We'll just say strengths for now.
Wide receiver. If you want to go comparing for team to team, you got the wide receivers is better than what Chiefs has.
So what are the Chiefs' strengths?
The Chiefs?
Yes. Not just against the Eagles, but as a team, what are their strengths?
Coach. You got
of course
quarterback Mahomes.
Yeah.
Kelsey. I think I'll go ahead and make a spoiler of this. I think this is going to be a tight end game. I think
Kelsey's going to have his. He always does.
But the thing is Goddard on the other side. I do think that too. But for the Chiefs, their offensive line is not a strength. That is their weakness for them. But Kelsey, Mahomes. That's all I pretty much would give them.
Kelsey Mahomes, yeah.
I mean, a running back, you got to have 1-2 punch. They complement each other for running back, but there's no,
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a strength of their team. I think the strength is experience in coaching.
Yeah.
I think the strength is Mahomes, all-world talent, Kelsey, all-world talent.
Yeah.
When you put them together, they're better than the sum of their parts. The back end of their defense is bad. Is weakness. It's porous.
Yeah, it's not
a lot of young players playing in that secondary.
Yes.
They played fairly well against the Bengals. But I would say Joe Burrow was not as crisp as he has been.
No.
We'll see if Hurts is as crisp. He hasn't been crisp, I would say, in the last couple of games either. Coming off that shoulder. So, he's played okay, but he hasn't been crisp as he was in the beginning.
He's played good enough. And that's...
So I think a legitimate weakness of the Chiefs is also their back end of their secondary. And like you said, the running game doesn't compare. The receivers, the names don't compare.
Yeah.
But Mahomes is obviously the better quarterback, so it all kind of averages out.
Yeah, he will elevate it, and of course, too, you got Tony. They could do all kinds of different things with him, and I think that's what Andy Reid's going to throw into this game is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. He's going to open that whole playbook up for those type of players, but they're banged up too, so it's not they're not 100%. And not saying Mahomes, I think Mahomes is fine, but you got a little bit of a issue there. But you got Mahomes, the greatest. He's up there.
Mahomes is probably not 100%.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts probably not 100%. But neither one of them are on the injury report. So they're going to play. For all intents and purposes, they are fine. They're healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, at this point of the year, no one is completely healthy. But they're about as healthy as they can be at this point. So I don't think injuries need to come into play with the quarterbacks.
No.
I did check the injury report recently. 0 players from the Philadelphia Eagles on injury report. 0, not a 1.
That's hard.
There are 4 players for the Chiefs on injury report, including 3 of their 4 wide receivers. Mecole Hardman already out, injured reserve. Juju questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Darius Toney questionable. The only fully healthy receiver is Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
And Tony, I heard today, he is going to play.
Okay.
That of course, he's going to probably still be on the injury report, but that is what he said. So, look, those are some good key players.
At the end of the day, the number 1 receiver for the Chiefs is Travis Kelce, and he'll be playing, and he'll get his.
And he will get his. He'll get 80 yards, 10 targets, 2 or 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many touchdowns. Because we know
it's not going to be 5 touchdowns.
No, it's not going to be 5. But he will. It wouldn't surprise me seeing 2.
Would not surprise me to see 2. I think he's the only legitimate offensive piece that the Eagles may have to worry about in this game.
Oh, without a doubt.
And we see the sweatshirt I'm wearing. Yeah. I don't want to sound like too much of a homer, but you look at this game on paper. Are the Eagles not clearly the better team from top to bottom?
All around, all phases of the game, to me.
Yes.
Not
quarterback.
No, not quarterback. We take that out of there. But you talking about offense, defense, special teams. It's all.
I couldn't agree more.
But you're also facing Mahomes.
Definitely.
Andy Reid. And they're not going to roll over.
They will never roll over.
And I've heard some people say, well, Eagles had a easier path. I don't think easier path. But also, too, I think they both had respectively a difficult but not a super hard path to get to this point through the playoffs.
Through the playoffs.
Yeah.
So in the regular season, the Eagles, you could say, had a much easier path than the Chiefs did. The Chiefs are playing now. When we first started the season, we were told the NFC East is a bottom feeder division, and the AFC West is one of the upper echelon divisions.
Yeah.
And we watched the season, and you saw Dallas Cowboys pop off 12 wins. You saw Brian Daboll and the Giants get to the second round of the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
You saw the Commanders get fairly close before they were ousted. I think it was 16 or week 17 that they were ousted. There was a legitimate chance for 4 of 4 teams in that NFC East to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
AFC West, Chargers ended with 10 wins, I believe it was.
That was.
Which was a disappointment. They played, I would say they had more wins than their season showed, I guess you could say. And their playoff exit was a disappointment, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders, dumpster fire.
The
Broncos,
nice.
dumpster fire.
Oh, gracious, yes.
Goodness gracious.
That was terrible.
And so, if we're talking about just divisions, I would argue Eagles had a tougher road in division. Now, if we're not talking division, we're talking just the entire schedule. Obviously, Chiefs had to play
Bills.
Josh Allen and the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs had to play Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Just to name a couple. Those are obviously the other 2 premier quarterbacks in the AFC.
Nope.
And they lost to both of those teams.
Yeah.
Now, I like that jersey, and I remember when that game, the Chiefs and Bills, regular season happened. Bills won fairly convincingly. And I remember the conversation, the big conversation in the sports world was, has Josh Allen taken over the number 1 spot over Patrick Mahomes? And then fast forward a couple weeks, the Chiefs lose to the Bengals, and the conversation was, has Joe Burrow taken over the number 1 spot? Fast forward a couple more weeks, you and I are sitting here in Western North Carolina having a blast, not talking about Josh Allen, not talking about Joe Burrow, talking about the best player, the best quarterback in the game of football currently. One of the best tight ends of all time, and one of the best coaches of all time, the Kansas City Chiefs. So, with all that being said, as much as this game looks to lean toward the Eagles on paper, you can't count out the Chiefs. You can't count out Patrick Mahomes. On paper, it looks like the Eagles should have rolled the Chiefs. Do I think that's going to happen? You know, I have my mixed feelings on it. I'm speaking as objectively as possible. I'm not speaking as a fan. I'm really not. I'm looking at this from a statistical, from an X's and O's standpoint, and it just looks like the Eagles have a lot more quality elite players than the Chiefs do on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And so you would think they'd win fairly convincingly. There's a reason why this is the first time Mahomes has been an underdog, because he has the second best team this week.
He does.
Yeah.
And you know, how the line moved, it showed. But, you know, there's another thing about Kelsey. And I pulled this up. 17 career playoff games. The stats are absolutely what some of these tight ends don't even see in 1 to 2 years, even more than that. Even
a career.
A career, yeah. 127 catches, almost 1,500 receiving yards, and 15 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, that's a good career for some players.
That is,
yeah.
I mean,
and that's just in the playoffs for Kelsey.
I mean, of course, everybody knows he's easily going to be a Hall of Famer.
First ballot.
And
just like his brother.
Yep. And it's pretty much just going to come down to Mahomes and Kelsey. And that's pretty much what it's going to come down to. And Kelsey's going to have to, you know, they have their different want to, you know, do and things like that. But, you know, my thing is this. We can just, you know, and say that Kelsey's going to at least probably see around 100 yards receiving.
How could you not? He's the focal point of the offense.
Yeah. And I tell you, on paper the Eagles have the better defense, but you're not going to stop Kelsey 100%. You're not going to do it, and honestly, I'm excited to see him against the Eagles secondary. I'm excited.
I am too.
And to be honest with you, and I think it's going to be pretty close. I think it's going to be going through the third quarter. I think it's going to be close. But I think at the end it's going to shock us a little bit, the score. the score may actually indicate something a little bit different than what it actually shows, in my opinion. And I'm talking, what can we, I'll get into the outcome, what my prediction is with score, but
Okay.
kind of already know where I'm leaning. But I think that the score is going to be a little bit of a shocker, but it's not going to be what the whole game was. And it's, that happens.
Okay. I mean, we can get right into the outcome if you want.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Unless you have anything else to add to the matchup.
I mean, on the matchup, it's kind of like going back to the Panthers and the Broncos. What it was many years ago that you had Cam Newton there as quarterback. Very good offense. Very efficient, but you also had a defense of the Broncos. It comes down to the defense to me. Defense wins football games, and the game has changed over the years.
Yes.
Even in the past 5 to 10 years, it's changed.
Definitely.
But my thing is this: defense still wins football games, especially when it's stout like the Eagles. And the Eagles, they're gonna want to get those 3 sacks in this game. They're gonna want to pass that record. Who would have ever thought that it would ever pass maybe that Bears dominant team record with sacks? But the game has also changed since then.
Yeah,
too.
Is this the 85 Bears we're talking about?
No.
What Bears team is this?
85, 80, something like that.
Well, 85 is the Super Bowl year. So maybe it is 85.
Yeah, I think it is.
That's their their vaunted defense, the 85 Bears.
Yeah.
I think in that time, in that frame, was it 14-game regular season? I think it was 14 at that point. So obviously a couple more games to be played, right? So you can take the record with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But regardless, what a phenomenal season it's been for the defense. 4 different players with double-digit sacks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's ever been done before.
That's
if
crazy.
it has, surely not often.
No.
So, and of course, Hassan Reddick leading that charge, one of the league leaders, the team leader in sacks.
Yeah.
And more on him maybe in a little bit. But let's get into our predictions. You want to just get right into it?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it.
Because it sounds like we're both leaning Eagles here. That's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
You've set this up to say that things may not always be what they seem in terms of score. What do you got for score? Let's paint a picture. First of all, the over-under is 51 currently. Eagles are favored by 1.5 on a neutral field. Give me your score.
Well, it does hurt me that, my Packers are not in this, but, I guess we go ahead. I had to put that out there. But
there's a reason they're on it, so.
Yeah, there's a reason why. And just to kind of go along with my bet lines, I don't believe in the -1.5. Now, I would want to say this. I do think I would not be shocked if Chiefs won.
I wouldn't be shocked because these are the 2 best teams. Anything can happen.
But 38-27 Eagles.
38-27. Okay.
And I think it's just a pull away at the end. And this is me hoping that Sanders gets involved late in the game. Don't get me wrong, I like Gainwell, Boston. I think they're fine. Give the darn ball to Sanders. Especially you get in that 4th quarter. Let's run the clock out.
One of the beauties of this offense is that it doesn't need to be Miles Sanders.
It doesn't need
It could
to
be Kenneth Gainwell, it could be Boston Scott, it could be Jalen Hurts, it could be Devontae Smith around the edge. I mean, it could be any sort of running attack. With this offensive line, with Kelsey pulling from center, running just as fast as these running backs sometimes in front of them as a lead blocker. I mean, what a phenomenal rushing attack. And that's really what this team is built on, is a power running team.
Yeah. And my thing is, and I get that, but you get towards the end of the game, let's let somebody, Sanders, let him do it.
Get to the horse.
And
he's clearly the number 1. I mean,
don't get me wrong.
No bidding that.
Hurts is better running back than all of them.
Well, I think Sanders is probably the best running back.
I mean, in the sense of in their scheme. But my thing is, just give it to him, let him run. And they're going to give it to, change it up with Gainwell. and there's nothing wrong with that. But you getting towards the end, say if you're up 7 to 10 points,
Yeah.
give it to Sanders. It's no brainer. Let them push that front line. Let them go. And I don't see how the Chiefs come back with just Kelsey and Mahomes. In that case, now if they don't go by that, I mean, of course, they're head coaches. I'm not, but I really think that that's a smart move, and I think that's how that should end. And I think that's how it's going to end. But we'll have to see. What is yours? I want to hear yours because
Sanders is going to get his touches.
he's going to get it. But
I mean, Sanders is the bell cow. But the thing is, if there's not a true bell cow, the bell cow is the rushing attack. It's not a single player.
Yep.
Right. So, and as a fan of this team, I enjoy that because if someone goes down, it doesn't immediately exhaust all your plans.
Yeah.
You know, if Sanders goes down, you have capable runners behind him. You have the line that still dominates up front. Real quick, people are talking about the Kansas City defensive front. Good players. Frank Clark, good player. Willie Gay, a linebacker, also questionable, by the way. Good player in the front seven. I'm spacing on him right now, but obviously Chris Jones in the middle. Fantastic player. One of the better interior defensive linemen in the last decade in the NFL. I don't think they're going to have an answer for this offensive line. I don't. Chris Jones, is he getting through Jason Kelsey? I don't think so. Is Frank Clark getting around Lane Johnson? No.
You can even flip this whole thing. You could say about the same thing with the Eagles' defensive line versus the offensive line for Chiefs. Chiefs are not going to stop that defensive line.
And I think in the trenches is where this game is going to be won. And I do think Kansas City will stick around and will give a valiant effort. The over-under is 51. I'm going to give it 52 total points, 31-21 Eagles.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good participation trophy for Chiefs. You know, finish second place. I think that, and then I'm curious of how their, you know, this is going off script, but I'm curious of how their next year or two is going to go, the Chiefs, because they are a dynasty in a way. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say it's full blown Patriots, what it was, but I will say, you know, this is a team year in, year out. In the past few years, it's been there, and rightfully so. And because you got a good coach, you got a great tight end, and you got someone that can throw the ball, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Patriots were 3 out of 4.
Yep.
And Chiefs, if they lose this game, will be 1 out of 3. Can't put them in the same breath. That's not quite the same.
It's kind of like saying LeBron, Michael Jordan.
Right. We don't even need to get into this conversation.
Yeah, come on
right
now.
Don't even need to get into this right now. MJ is obviously the GOAT. But put some respect on LeBron's name. About to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, yada, yada, yada. We'll get
style points now.
Right. Facilitator with the best scoring ever. Let's get off that topic.
Come on now.
Yeah. Let's get off that topic. Put some respect on my man's name is all I'm going to say. Eagles 31, Chiefs 21. Hard-fought efforts. By the way, this is not a failure. If the Chiefs lose this game, it's not a failure of a season. You lose Tyreek Hill. People were saying Herbert's going to take over the division. People were saying Russell Wilson's going to come in and take away some wins and maybe either win the division or find a wild card spot. And the Chiefs are here, Super Bowl weekend. We're talking about them again. 3rd in 5 years. You know, Andy Reid off a bye, by the way, phenomenal in his career. That's a concern. He's fared fairly well against the Eagles the couple times he's coached against them since his departure from the team as well. So,
well, what a lot of you know, these teams really, they know each other in a lot of aspects.
Yep.
Sirianni, you got Andy Reid. I mean, not saying it's like within the past year or two, but I mean, this historically.
When Reid got to Kansas City, Sirianni was part of the staff. Reid did not choose to retain him, and so you know that's another little talking point. Sirianni did not forget that.
I mean, of course, too, you know, that some of the Chief players are saying that Philadelphia don't have the best Philly cheesesteaks.
Yeah. Devastating commentary right there. It definitely has been much more of a love fest between the two teams than compare it to say Kansas City, Cincinnati 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we don't need none of that love fest.
You don't. It doesn't have to be brawls all the time either. I don't mind some respect being thrown back and forth between two teams. I don't mind.
We need to turn this into a hockey.
No. I don't mind. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know you have the Islanders colors on. I don't. I don't need a brawl. A brawl every now and then is cool, but when you have players from the Bengals calling it Burrowhead after he's won one game in Kansas City. You have the Chiefs linebacker saying he sees nothing in the Bengals offense. I mean, I was surprised there wasn't a full-out brawl on that field that night.
Well, you can also say the same thing about with the Eagles and 49ers, especially towards the end of that game.
Well, there wasn't as much talk.
To that
between the teams. I think there was more of a brawl.
I think if you have more of a talk, that may have been a little bit more than that. But that's the past. We got this game here that I think is really going to be a very fascinating game. Do I think it's going to be the best Super Bowl ever? No, I don't think so. I think there's some other ones.
I think the Eagles Patriots for 5 years ago is up there with one of the better games in Super Bowl history.
Yeah. So,
but we don't need to talk about that.
Nope.
We're not there anymore. It's a half a decade ago.
Nick Foles was the GOAT there. So
love Nick Foles.
Yeah, he's
can't call him the GOAT. He's the backup, but I do love him.
Well, Nick Foles was the man. But,
phenomenal backup.
Yeah.
Phenomenal backup. So you say 38-27, 11-point difference. I say 31-21, 10-point difference. We both see a double-digit game here.
Yeah, and I really just think that I just don't see. This is me, looking at the game and how the game's for this. I don't see how the Chiefs just go past this defense. And I'm not saying it's world-beating defense, but it's really a solid defense.
It's close.
It's really solid defense. But
I mean,
Mahomes going to do Mahomes stuff, and if he does enough of that with Kelsey, and if Tony can have a great game, and somehow or another the running game gets going there with that 1-2 punch, like I said, I don't see how it could get to that, but and I wouldn't say this, and if you really want to do it, just throw a little dabble betting the Chiefs. You could.
Why would you not?
And I really think that but all of me is on the Eagles.
As a fan, I don't want to feel this confident about a game, but it's just hard not to. You look at on paper. I know paper doesn't win games, but this is a much more talented team than the Chiefs. In every phase.
Yeah.
Tight end, obviously. Quarterback. Those two, Chiefs have it.
Yeah.
But if you go offensive line, defensive line, running game, receivers, back end of the defense, front seven, it's all leading toward Philadelphia. Special teams is leading toward Philadelphia.
You only got one thing that's against all that, and that's Mahomes on the other side.
Which could be enough. I'm not going to argue that could be enough because he is magical.
And you got Andy Reid too, but
of course, I mean Andy Reid, what a master of a technician of a play caller, a great coach, great adjuster. Coming off a bye, that's tough.
Hard to bet against him.
That's tough.
But I'm sticking with I've been pretty good this year.
We'll go with one more little note here before we get into some betting, throwing around some cash, which is what we all came here to see, right? Before that happens, I'm going to get into one more note. 2020.
Story time.
I believe it's 2020. Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's the 20 season yet. 21, I think, was the actual Super Bowl. Chiefs, Buccaneers. Patrick Mahomes was absolutely in over his head with that pass rush that year. Of course, he lost a couple linemen, right? he hasn't lost any linemen this year, to this point.
Yeah.
But that line cannot stop this front. And the great thing about the Eagles front is that they're going to send 4. They're going to rotate in those 4. The Eagles have 8 or 9 capable defensive linemen that can play at any given time. They're going to rotate in 4 fresh guys. They're not going to blitz. They're going to have 7 players back there guarding Kelsey. Probably shadow Kelsey with 2. Probably Gardner Johnson's one of them on Kelsey, and you have a linebacker maybe on him as well. He'll get his still.
Yep.
But those receivers are not beating Slay and Bradbury. They're not. And you think you're going to run with Jordan Davis clogging up the middle? With Fletcher Cox, veteran, in there?
Yeah.
With Ndamukong Suh in there? It's going to be a tough ask for even Andy Reid, Mahomes, and Kelsey. That's my last thought.
And, if you look at the back of the season, how they, the Chiefs won their games. They played down the competition. You can't, this is not playing down, but even in most of their wins, it's never been like 10-plus points. So it's always been within striking distance.
Yes.
And I think if the Eagles get ahead, 10 points, something like that, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to get into a rhythm offensively against that defense. But
especially with that pass rush. That's exactly what happened. I think we could see a similar game to that year. I really do.
Yep.
So we got all the boring stuff out of the way. All the talk.
Yep.
I'm happy to be back here doing this, man. But let's get right into what we all been waiting for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daily fantasy. Let's do DFS to start. We'll get to betting last. DFS. We're gonna go with. Obviously, it's only a single game slate.
Yeah.
So you got your 5 players. What you got for your number 1 lineup? Your favorite lineup?
Well, just go ahead and get into the start of this. We already know how the Eagles' defense is against the pass. They're number 1.
Yep.
16 against the run. You get the Chiefs.
I will say, caution that number.
Yep.
16 is a little low against the run. It is on paper 16.
That's correct.
Jordan Davis being out really for those 4 or 5 games in the middle of the season really added to those rushing yard totals.
I agree.
And when he's healthy, that's not 16 against the run. That's top 10.
But everyone, I don't know how this ownership's going to be. I think it's going to be almost split for Mahomes and Hurts. I really think it's going to be that way. But for me, you got to play both of them in a line. You have to play both of them. Okay. I am fully on Hurts as the MVP. And rushing ability. Also, too, I think that A.J. Brown's had a couple, not so great games. But he wants his. And he's going to get his. And then you also got Devontae Smith, Goddard, the offense. He's going to throw, but the rushing ability that Hurts has, that's why he's up there for me. That's pretty much where I'm going to start at for building my odds. It's going to be there.
So Hurts, Brown, and Mahomes? Is that what you're saying?
I'm going to go Hurts, Mahomes, just to start.
Okay. That's a lot of the salary right there, by the way. That's
it is.
34.
It is.
Out of 60,000.
And I won't dip down too far.
You're going to need to with those 2. No. So I'll get into why I can't play both quarterbacks here in a minute.
Uh-oh.
But finish with what you're saying.
No, there's only 2 players I'm going to go down to. This is basically over on FanDuel. Is you got 6,500 CH. I'm not really going to play him. But if you wanted to go down, you could do that. But I'm not a fan of that. But I like Tony at 7,000. That is where I like. That's my bottom. That's my floor. That's where I'm going.
Okay.
But there's a player on this slate that's way too cheap.
Okay.
And that's Jake Elliott at 8,000. I like that there. High scoring game. You're gonna get his extra points. Maybe a field goal, 2, maybe only 3. It's gonna be fine at 8,000 there. I really like it there. And then you go down here. You get the Buckert. You got the Goddard, McKinnon, and Baggio. I like that.
So give me
who's there.
Give me a starting 5. Do you have a starting five, or do you just have kind of your targets and you're going to build from there?
That's my target, but I will say that that's where it's going to be.
Okay.
But now I will say, I mean, of course, I'm not going to play just one line. You know how I am. But
This guy, he's going to play about 100 lines.
yeah, I might. But
These aren't cheap. These are not cheap, by the way.
I'm going to mix in some Brown and some Smith with my, Hurts, and I will fade Mahomes and some. I will do that, but
Interesting.
Those are my GPP. Now, if I'm going to do other things, I'm going to probably have cash. I'll have my Hurts and Mahomes together. Now, I do say that Kelsey, it does scare me in some of the lines now. Probably in the building is not having him in there, and that is probably my thing. I'll end up having to take Mahomes out and put Kelsey in because in my non-lines because I cannot not play. 50. I mean, you have to be 50 to 70% with Kelsey in your lines. I think.
Absolutely, I agree.
I think you. I mean, if you're going to do 100, 150 max, you're going to have to do that.
And we know you're going to do 150 max, so you're going to have 100 lines with Kelsey in it. I appreciate that. I like it. Here's the thing. We're talking FanDuel, right? We're talking FanDuel.
Yeah.
$60,000 salary cap.
Yeah.
Hurts and Mahomes together, that's $34.5.
Mm-hmm.
That is a ton of money. You can't even afford A.J. Brown if you want to do that.
No, you can't.
If you want to throw in A.J. Brown with those two, you have to go to the bottom of the barrel for the other two. And you may not even be able to do it. I'm not sure if my math checks out, but I don't think you can even do it. To me, as the game script we just talked about, how we feel this game is going to go, how we feel the defense is going to show up for the Eagles, I'm going to give you two lines, neither of which have Mahomes in them. Now, I checked. I did some research. Patrick Mahomes, in his last 9 games, including playoffs, has only been over 20 fantasy points 4 times. He's been in the teens 5 times.
Wow.
And that's against some subpar defenses. Of course, there's going to be the thought that he's going to be having to come from behind and put up some numbers, of course. But I think if you're playing cash, obviously cash games are 50-50s. This is where top half wins. You go with a safer lineup. You don't go with a tournament winning lineup. Jalen Hurts is the obvious MVP, right? I think we both agree on that. So, and both my lineups have A.J. Brown, who I think will go off in this game.
I agree with you.
Back end of the defense for the Chiefs is not good. A.J. Brown is due for a big game. Hasn't had one yet in the playoffs. I think this is A.J. Brown's time, especially if Hurts can throw a good ball. And his touch is back. His touch did look a little shaky.
He's a baller. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. We're going to go Jalen Hurts, Travis Kelce, A.J. Brown, the Eagles defense, and Boston Scott as my first lineup.
That's a nice cash lineup.
Boston Scott's a little scary, I guess, if you want to talk in terms of straight reliability, because he's the third string running back. But this is the kind of game where he's going to get some touches.
He might get a touchdown.
And he's been up near 10 points, I believe 3 of the last 4 games. He's been up near 10 fantasy points. 10 fantasy points for a $7,500 player, that's just fine. If you don't have the stomach for Boston Scott, you can go down to Tony at $7,000.
Yep.
And you have 2 Chiefs, Kelsey and Tony, and you still have A.J. Brown, Hurts, and the Eagles defense. But let's go to the other lineup. I'm going to keep Hurts and Brown in there. We're going to add Devontae Smith as well. Many times this year, I don't have the exact number, but often this year, both receivers have put up well over 12 to 15 fantasy points in the same game. Many, I would say about 8 times just off memory. So we're going to keep those 2 with Hurts. We're going to go Harrison Butker. Now, what I know about the Chiefs is they're not going to give up. They're going to move the ball. What I know about the Eagles is they are a bend but don't break
Yes.
type of a secondary.
And that's good for kickers.
And that's great for kickers. And then the fifth will go Isaiah Pacheco.
That's a great. I mean, those are both great lines. I mean, you all you're doing is saying, hey, Mahomes is not going to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns to other players.
It's not even that. Look, honestly, it's the pricing.
Oh,
I want to play Mahomes, but you can't afford both of them, and you have to have Hurts, in my opinion. Now, if you want to go contrarian, go Mahomes, Kelsey, Tony. Go against the Eagles because there's a scenario where that could work as well.
What do you think is the likelihood of the Eagles just blowing them out?
I think it's fairly likely. I do. I don't want to say that because I'm wearing this right here, and obviously you're a homer. Oh, you're not giving the Chiefs any respect. I've watched these teams. You know the kind of digging I do when I watch football.
You've always been a fan of the Chiefs and Mahomes. You've always been high on them.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no bias or anything like that because you fully. I've always been kind of against the Mahomes.
Yeah, you're wearing a Josh Allen jersey right now.
But look at it this year and what they faced, adversity, some things injuries, stuff like. I mean, you got to give them credit, and you got to give Mahomes credit. And I really think that Mahomes, I mean, he's the best quarterback right now.
Best quarterback in football, special player.
But that doesn't matter when it comes to this game. At the end of it, because it's going to either come to him and Kelsey and Andy Reid, and those three somehow don't pull, I wouldn't say miracle, but magic out of that.
Yep.
I don't see them I definitely don't see them rallying the Eagles.
I don't see a scenario. This is similar to the 49ers-Eagles game. I do not see a scenario where the Chiefs blow out the Eagles. But I do see a scenario where the Eagles blow out the Chiefs. And that was the same for the Eagles-49ers matchup. That same thing. I think, trying to be as objective as possible, and I'm a huge Mahomes fan, huge Andy Reid fan. Travis Kelce's future Hall of Famer, first ballot.
Yep.
Maybe we could say best tight end ever. We can maybe say that. It's close, but we could probably get there pretty soon if he has another year or two like he's been having for the last decade.
I think, too, before we even get off of the DFS talk, is there's one player, I think, on this whole slate that could just break the slate, but I don't really want to dare touch. And it's way too high of a salary for me. And that's Miles Sanders at $12,000. That guy right there, if you want to play tournaments, be contrarian, that's the guy, in my opinion. And maybe have a Goddard with him in your lines. That is the most contrarian way you can be, I think, in this game for a single game.
That would absolutely be contrarian because
that's taking the big dollars. That's definitely nowhere near cash. I would not touch that.
I don't think so because if you think about it, Miles Sanders broke the slate 2 weeks ago against the 49ers with 2 touchdowns.
It could do it again.
And that was the vaunted rushing defense of the 49ers. Kansas City is nowhere near that kind of rushing defense. Yeah. A very, very possible scenario in which Miles Sanders does that. The Eagles are a power running team. Kansas City does not stop a run that well. Definitely not as well as the 49ers.
No.
And so there's a scenario where Sanders does get your 2 touchdowns.
The salary.
I don't see the salary in this game with the quarterbacks being so high. I don't see Sanders getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Goddard, I'll say I don't see this as a Goddard game at all. I see this as an A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith game.
That's where I disagree with you at. I think it's going to be all 3.
Yeah, Goddard. Yeah, it could be. It could be, but I'd say the front 7 for the Chiefs is much more reliable than the back 4.
What would shock me? I'll go ahead and do this. Every now and then I'll say something that's a little bit controversial. It would not shock me if Goddard has a better game than Kelsey.
That would shock me. I'm just going to say that. That would shock me.
It wouldn't shock me. But it's not very likely. But, no, Goddard's not better than Kelsey. But
of course not.
But how you were talking about earlier, how that defense, maybe not rush. Maybe hold back a little bit. What if they just somehow or another, if they could figure out a way to slow Kelsey down, it's game over.
Yeah, I think if they slow Kelsey down, it's game over quick.
And very quickly.
Yes.
Especially if they cannot get no running game. They're gonna have the Chiefs. I think they're gonna have to get ahead, and they're gonna have to get ahead, and they're gonna have to do. That's the only way I can see them winning and having Kelsey have a monstrous game. Now I know there are gonna be some things, them trying to come back and everything. I get that.
Yeah,
but Kelsey's going to strike early, quick, and often.
Definitely. I think that's the only chance. I do. Barring some, miraculous special teams run back or two to keep the Chiefs in the game. But we all know the Eagles' MO. They get on you quick and they keep going.
Yep.
And before you blink, it's 21-0.
And
not saying that's going to happen this time, but I would not be surprised if it does.
And if their offense is not clicking early, their defense will.
Absolutely. And I see you shuffling around those papers over there. I see some pluses and minuses. I see some big numbers. I see some words that I'm liking. We're of course talking betting, which is the last segment, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure you have some good stuff. You always have some good stuff for me. I got a couple things here too. So let's get right into the betting. Philly, like we said, minus 1.5 on the spread. Over-unders at 51 currently. Let's just go into some quick little stats. Eagles are 10-9 this year against the spread. Chiefs are 7-11-1 against the spread this year. Andy Reid career in his playoff career is 19-16 against the spread. Not too bad.
Oh, not bad at all.
So let me just hear some of the stuff you got over there. I'm excited to see all those papers you've been shuffling.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's a thick stack. Thick stack.
It's I'm getting gotta get a little ready. This is Super Bowl week. Gotta get a little excited here.
Yeah, you're prepared. I'll tell you that much. He's prepared.
Mainly 3/4 of the money in the betting market is going to the Eagles.
Yep. That's why the line changed so dramatically.
And 70-some of the percent of the bets. The line is minus 1.5 Eagles. Here's my thing. I don't like that. I don't like the minus 1.5. I would do minus 3.5, but I don't want to get greedy.
Yeah, that's big. That's a big number.
Because the problem is, you look at it. You look at the odds. The odds can be, minus 240. And you see a jump. That's where I stop. I don't like looking at it when you go to those alternate lines.
So for folks that may not know what you're talking about searching for alternate spreads.
Yeah, alternate spreads.
Okay.
Because there's a little extra jingle there, a little bit dough there, but you also can look at Vegas wants to fool you a little bit.
Yep.
And I don't like being fooled. So I'm gonna take the Eagles minus 2.5.
Okay.
And field goal.
Field goal. I'm fine with that.
And I think that's fine.
3.5 is too high for me.
3.5.
We'll take 2.5.
Yes. I think that 3.5 is a little bit too much because then you get a field. It's going to be basically a touchdown. And I don't like that kind of a thing. I think this is going to be a touchdown kind of a game. And
we both say we think double digits.
Exactly. So there's a lot of.
But you don't want to put your money on double digits.
So minus 2.5 there. That's what I like.
Okay.
I'm a little bit skeptical, even though my prediction is so high in points.
Yep.
I'm a little bit skeptical. And I don't think you have to do that. If you want to do this in a parlay, you don't have to do that. I like it 43.5. That's a minus 310.
And you're going over?
Yeah, over.
Okay.
Yeah, over. And the Eagles one's the 2.5 is the minus 1/2 odds. Eagles money line, it's minus 122. I like the Goddard 25 plus receiving yards. I think that's pretty safe there.
Yeah.
The biggest one I think is going to be the gamble is going to be the A.J. Brown anytime touchdown. And that's a plus 120. I like that there. And be honest with you, with that right there, that's plus 435.
Was that a 5-leg parlay?
Yep. That's and right there, I'll tell you, I like that. And A.J. Brown's probably the only one that I'm really, anytime you do it, anytime touchdown, it's the biggest risk.
Definitely.
And I definitely don't like ever dabble too much in the first touchdown. That's just, you're guessing. But A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown, I like that there with that. And
Okay.
That's plus 435 all total, and I think that's not bad.
No, I don't hate any of that.
I mean, there's a couple more I like, but that's
Yeah.
probably my favorite.
I don't hate any of that. Goddard, 25 receiving yards is very doable.
Mm.
1 or 2 catches that could be done. A.J. Brown, we both love him in this game.
Yep.
I think a touchdown is fairly, I'm fairly confident in a touchdown for him. Obviously that's a gamble. That's the variance, right?
Yep.
In DFS or betting is a touchdown, right? That's so many different, factors go into something like that, and that's what makes it fun. It makes people win and lose. I'm gonna go just straight spread of 1.5. Almost a pick and game. I'm fairly confident Eagles can cover that.
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident Eagles can cover that. I'll be willing to put some money on that, just the 1.5. Now, yes, we both said of the score. I said 52 points. You said, 59 points. 38-27, excuse me.
Yep.
65 points is what you said. I think you can get away with betting the under at 51. I think you can get away with betting the under. I'm not saying that's a super confident bet that I would make, but it's something that I'd take a chance on if the line was right.
I think that's why I went my alternate that way, because
like we said earlier, Eagles 10-9 this year against the spread. Chiefs not good, 7-11-1, not great anyway. Andy Reid in his career in the playoffs, 19-16, a little bit over 500. That's fine. Off a bye, he's virtually unbeatable. That's a bit of a concern for the Eagles. So, I'm not going to put a lot of money into the game itself, but I want to get to a couple props that I really, really like. And specifically, they're MVP props. MVP props. And I got some numbers here. We're going to go with the first one. We've been talking about him all night. A.J. Brown. Plus 1,800.
Woo!
Is your odds to be the MVP. I could see him being the MVP. I could see him getting 2 touchdowns, being that most valuable player. And I'd be willing to put a comfortable amount of money on that.
That's interesting.
If you want to go even further, if you want to really dig deep into those pockets and maybe make yourself a nice little chunk of change, don't gotta get too crazy, but just look into it. I appreciate you bringing up the Denver Broncos and Carolina Panthers from Super Bowl 50. That's the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 50. You know who the MVP of that game was? Ooh. He's now wearing that jersey, by the way. It was Von Miller. I'm gonna go at plus 3,400. Hassan Reddick as Super Bowl MVP, and with 3+ sacks.
And I tell you, and then that puts them over the record.
That would give him the record as well. Yeah.
What a storyline that'll be.
Look for him to wreak havoc on that Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. He single-handedly took Brock Purdy out of the NFC Championship game. And single-handedly turned that game around in favor of the Eagles, and we didn't look back. Look for him to do the same thing again. There's no one on that line that can stop him. Having an MVP caliber year from the defensive side. Hassan Reddick, 3,400, plus 3,400. I love that bet. I'll be putting some money on that one for sure.
You can just 3,400, $10 to win you.
$340. Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad.
Not too bad.
Man, You dug deep on that one. I was trying
Not
to be.
too bad.
I was trying to be a little bit gentle on this one, but that's
Had
good.
to save that for the end.
Yep, that's. Zon Reddick had a great game last game, and
Yep.
I think that he's just fine. And that's another one that got away from another team. Basically,
I think it came up for Carolina.
Yep, it did.
Before that, it was in Arizona.
Came up for Panthers and pretty much gave nothing for them. I mean, it doesn't even matter if you win a Super Bowl. When you ask the Rams about that, they just give everything away and win one Super Bowl, and they're gonna have a hard time for the rest of. I mean, they're gonna end up probably having to rebuild in the next 4 to 5 years because of that.
Yes.
But it's about that ring. It's about that trophy.
It's about that ring, man.
And
we're at Tuesday night right now.
Yeah.
Super Bowl is on Sunday. Family's coming in for me, man. It's going to be a hell of a time. I'm super excited, and it's been a blast doing this again with you, man.
But, it's not going to be a blast if the Chiefs beat the Eagles.
Of course not. But
it's still going to be a good game.
It's still going to be a blast.
It's going to be a blast. You made it to there, and I know you're happy and everything. But let me ask you a question. Do you think both these teams run it back next year?
No. If we've seen anything in football, it's that teams don't run it back next year. Right. Now, I'll say the Eagles, there's a very fair chance the Eagles don't lose many key players next year. They're going to be loaded. But who knows? Injury bug can bite. Jalen Hurts goes out for half the year instead of a couple games. Who knows what could happen? Maybe so Eagles win a ring. Someone wants to get out, wants to get paid, wants to test free agency, lose that key member of the team. Okay. Who knows what could happen? It's hard to say a team runs it back. And honestly, in the AFC, the Chiefs have a much tougher road anyway.
Well, at least we can say the Cowboys ain't running nothing back.
I'm fairly confident on that as well. Yes.
I mean,
yeah. The Cowboys haven't done anything since I've been alive. So why would they start next year?
So I think we're going to do probably a couple more shows during the off season, maybe, and then maybe do some more of these, during the season next year. This year we didn't do it, but we've done this in the past, so maybe coming next year we'll do some more. What is your thoughts on next season as a whole? Is there a surprise team that's going to come up for you, or is it?
Keep an eye on the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. And if I was a betting man, and I am a betting man, don't throw the bank. Maybe throw in $10 on the Steelers winning the AFC in 2023.
Whew.
Maybe throw $10 on the Steelers winning the AFC next year. Just $10. Yeah. See what happens.
And I do think that the Bills are going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something to their team. The Bengals, I think they're a little bit ahead of themselves in a way, but I think they're still going to be good. I know they're going to have to get rid of one of the receivers and everything.
Yep.
But, you also got the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are not going to be what they are now and what they were the past couple years, but I still think they're going to be contenders. I think there's going to be some teams that comes up, and you got the Jags. I don't think they're going to come in and beat everybody for the Super Bowl, but that somebody's going to be surprised. I mean, you got Doug Peterson over it. What a genius.
Very good coach.
And then, the NFC, you got, the Eagles still, but the 49ers still going to be good, especially if Brock Purdy can get back.
It seems like the Eagles and 49ers are going to be the two best teams in the NFC next year.
Yeah.
It seems like, but we always think that. And then you have half the playoff teams leave, and half the teams that didn't make playoffs the year before make it. It just changes from year to year so frequently because of that parity, because of draft, or because of the salary cap, because of the draft, the order the way it is, where the best teams draft last and worst teams draft first.
Yeah.
So it's hard to predict teams will get back to the same, pinnacle. But it is hard to see two better teams in the NFC than the Eagles and 49ers.
Yeah, and
now Green Bay, I think they're going to move forward a little bit. Minnesota probably pulls back a bit, if I had to guess.
And there's a team that really they excite me a lot, but they got a big problem with salary cap, and that is the Chargers. And that team right there, they have the structure. They got right receiver. Do I think they need to get rid of Keenan Allen? I think so. I think it's time to move on from him. I think it's time to bring in some other people.
It's phenomenal, but a little older.
It's kind of like Mike Evans.
Yeah, same, very similar player. Very similar player.
I mean,
Evans a little more over the top, but very similar player.
And I think, be honest with you, I think that they're just getting older. They had a lot of hamstring injuries.
Yep.
A lot of soft tissue, and I think what it is. I mean, they're still great players, and I still think they could be a very good role. I think when you start talking about money, and you talk about cap, I think those kind of things. Can they do something different there? The Chargers may be somebody you really need to watch because Herbert is a talent.
Phenomenal talent. We've talked about him on the show in the past. And speaking of the AFC West, Sean Payton's over in Denver now.
Did they get rid of Russell Wilson yet?
They haven't gotten rid of Russell Wilson yet.
Well, that ain't gonna be good then. I know you
take out $10 and throw it for the Steelers to win the AFC. Take out $20 and put it on the Broncos to win the AFC West next year. You might lose $30 or you might gain $1,500.
Well, it's just like Doug Peterson. Sean Payton's a genius.
And Russell Wilson is not completely washed.
No,
I will say that.
He's not completely, but...
You know who did Russell Wilson no favors? It was Nathaniel Hackett. So, let's get him with Sean Payton, an actual offensive genius. Not someone masquerading as an offensive genius because Aaron Rodgers put him on the map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. That's true.
An actual offensive genius who put Drew Brees, who is the same height as Russell Wilson, not the same player, different players, but had to overcome physically the same way Russell has had to. Puts in the work mentally the same way Russell did. And Sean Payton has already said, no more shenanigans. Russell Wilson's bodyguard or whatever the hell he has in the building.
Team 3.
His personal masseuse and chiropractor and valet and whatever he has going on there, you know.
We don't need any more personal masseuses around football.
That's a guarantee from Ben and Hugh for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely
I
don't
went
need
there.
that. Yeah, definitely don't need that. You saw how well Deshaun Watson did this year, and I think he potentially is washed. But that's another conversation.
You ain't played in 5 years, it seems like.
That's another conversation for another day.
Well, maybe we have to come back with a show in the off season and talk a little bit chit-chat about it.
I think so, because there's so much more I want to get into, but I think we got to wrap this one up here.
Yeah, we're probably getting into the long time on this one.
Oh, yeah. We're getting into it, but it's been fun, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
It's been a blast talking Eagles and Chiefs. It should be a fun weekend. The two best teams in the NFL, bar none, are in this game, as they should be. Same record, same amount of points. What else could you ask for?
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly. I like to hear that. And just as an objective fan, I also agree. Better team on paper. Man, it's been fun. We appreciate you guys out there watching and listening. For Hugh, I am Ben. This has been another PSA from the ESA. Thanks for watching.